Marinaro, the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal talk. CF Montreal had a huge game last night when they hosted FC Cincinnati, and it looked like they were going to pull off a huge win against arguably the best team in the East. And then at the 94th minute, disaster. And at the 97th minute, it was a tie. And that's the way it ended. Did they blow 2 points? We'll discuss that. We'll discuss the starting lineup, the players who played, the players who came in, the players who didn't come in, the players who didn't dress at all. And head coach Hernan Losada had a chance to talk to the media earlier today, and two topics of conversation prevailed: Matko Milic and Sean Rea. Is this team going to make the playoffs? Only 5 regular season games left. We dissect, we discuss, we chat, myself and Jeremy Filosa of 98.5 FM and EMFC Radio. The Sick Podcast, CF Montreal talk, coming up.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. CF Montreal talk.
Here's the chance. They've got the goal. Absolutely incredible. Cameron Porter delivers the goal to send Montreal Impact into the CONCACAF Champions League semi-final.
The sickest CF Montreal podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal talk. Let's bring in Jeremy Filosa on this Thursday, September 21st. It is 6:30 p.m. Jeremy, how are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
Very, very good. It was a big one last night in Montreal versus FC Cincinnati. And let's take a look at the starting lineup for CF Montreal and look back on it. All right, there you have it. Sirois, Waterman, Campbell, Corbo. There's your 3-man back line. The 2 6s in front of the 3-man back line, Wanyama and Saliba. Of course, your wingbacks, Lassiter and Chouanière. And Duke in behind Mason Toy and Mahala Opoku. There's the lineup. There's a couple of changes contrary to last game for CF Montreal. And those changes are Victor Wanyama, Jeremy, in the lineup for the first time in about 2 months. Saint-Pierre was not at 100%, under the weather. And up top, Mason Toy in the lineup after being out for an extended period of time. In for Jules Anthony Vilsain, who's nursing an injury. Pantemis, Kyoto, Jabang, Lapalainen, Ibrahim, Ofer, Hamdi, Piet, and Fernando Alvarez on the bench. And once again, Sean Rea doesn't make it in the top 20. We'll discuss. Let's talk about the game first. Jeremy, what'd you think?
Well, listen, I thought that the strategy going in was the right one. Before we talk about the lineup, you can't go out there thinking that you're going to be able to compete with Cincinnati if you come out guns a-blazing. So I thought the strategy was the right one to try and pick up some points. That being said, at the end of the day, you have one shot on target. You did score a goal. Again, CF Montreal at home, extremely opportunistic, as they have been most of the games at home this season. But, at the end of the day, one shot on target, your expected goals, 0.2. So that goes to show that, you probably shouldn't have scored in this game. But then again, against Chicago, you had 2 expected goals and you scored none.
But Opoku deserves a lot of credit, Jeremy, and I'm going to tell you why. Yeah. Here's a guy who gets a pass from Lapalainen, and there's a little bit of open space in front of him, and he takes it, and he goes for goal. He takes the shot. And I know it sounds like an elementary thing, but way too often this season, there have been players that within striking distance don't take the shot on goal. And then we look at the stats at the end of the night, and you don't see too many shots on goal, and we lament it. And I think it's one of the things we appreciated from Jules Anthony Vilsain when he came in after, being not in the lineup or on the bench for an extended period of time. When he finally got his opportunity, he was trying to shoot from pretty much anywhere, and we appreciated that. And Opoku deserves credit for going for it yesterday.
Yeah, but Tony, he deserves credit, but this is stuff that it's basic stuff. If you have a lane to the net, you should be shooting. That's your job. Your job is to score goals. You shouldn't be, afraid or scared to take shots on goal, especially, if they're on target. No coach is going to tell you that a shot on target is not a good shot. You never know what can happen. But
Jeremy, there were
few and
decisions
far
to be made
between.
there. He can take the space and run with it and try and take people
Sure.
on. He can shoot or he can pass the ball.
Yeah.
He had the right choice. I mean,
I understand, but you gotta try once in a while. Yes or no?
yeah, I hear
right?
you.
They don't try enough.
Hey,
Again,
I just want to give
yesterday-
the guy credit. If you don't want to give him credit, what do you want me to tell you?
No, it's good, but I'm saying, this is what I expect from strikers. I expect them to take those opportunities when they see them. And I mean, they're 1-for-1 yesterday. One shot, one goal. So maybe if you shoot more often, you score more. At the end of the day, listen, Tony, had somebody told us before the game, you're going to pick up a point that's going to end 1-1, we all would have said, fantastic. We'll take the point
100%.
against Cincinnati. Obviously, we're disappointed because of the way it all ended. You could smell those 3 points. I thought the game was done. I didn't think Cincinnati had a chance to come back. I thought Montreal looked pretty good, closing them up. That being said, Cincinnati ends the game with more than 2 goals expected, and they score none, or they score 1.
I have to tell you, I thought CF Montreal was going to win 2 when they took the lead. And you want to know why? For another reason. It's not because they defend well, and it's not because they have clean sheets at home. Yeah. It's because the finishing and the execution of FC Cincinnati last night was extremely poor. The players, their decision-making, I don't know how many times there was a player who penetrated the box, and all he had to do was pass the ball to another player incoming, but they hesitated, they waited, they tried for the drop pass instead. I think it happened on 2 occasions where the pass was a pass into the box. It didn't happen. There was another one that was a poor pass into the box, which was intercepted when Sirois came out and dove for it. There was a shot that was just wide. There was a player who creeped in off a corner kick and headed the ball. He was totally alone, and he definitely should have converted and scored that goal. They missed a lot of chances, Cincinnati, yesterday. Yeah. Vasquez was very, very slow with his movements. And I said, Cincinnati's got a bad game in their system tonight. And I think CF Montreal is going to capitalize. And in the end, it wasn't meant to be. But if you take a look at scoring chances, are you really going to say that Montreal blew 2 points? Because if you take a look at scoring chances, Cincinnati could have easily won that game last night.
It's just that, to draw at home in the last minute of play on a PK, which, could have not been called, but it was called, and it's fine. It is a PK. It seemed as though the foul happened in the box. But at the end of the day, you played your 2 last games at home. You played Chicago. You played Cincinnati. In my book, I thought that they would pick up 3 points in that sequence. 3 against Chicago, none against Cincinnati. At the end of the day, you pick up 2 and not 3. It's not dramatic because there's just I don't know what's going on, Tony, but everybody in the middle of the pack keeps drawing. I keep checking, playoff chances for CF Montreal, and they've been at 60%, and they still are this morning, 60% chances of making the playoffs for the past 3-4 weeks.
And I know a lot of people don't like their chances, but because the teams behind them didn't gain ground last night, it's 1 less game to play, so their chances are at least as good, if not better, actually increasing. Let's take a look at the standings right now if we can. And keep in mind, it's a 34-game season. So for Montreal, there are 5 games left in their regular season.
Yeah, most teams have 4 games left.
The top 7 teams make the playoffs. As you see, Cincinnati, Orlando, Columbus, and Philadelphia have already clinched. Team number 8 and number 9 will end up playing in a 1-game play-in. Exactly. If they win that game, then they end up either making the playoffs or moving on. Call it whichever one you want. Some people will say that if you play in the play-in, you've already made the playoffs, and some people will say that you have to win the play-in to make the playoffs. Whatever it is, you want to be in the top 9. And right now, CF Montreal is 8th. They have a point more than DC United. They have a game in hand. That's very, very good, obviously. They have 3 points more than New York City. They have a game in hand. That's very, very good, obviously. They have 4 points on Chicago, who's played the same amount of games. They have 4 points on Charlotte, who has a game in hand. And they're 6 points ahead of Miami, who has a game in hand. Jeremy, at the beginning of the season, we gave predictions. I think it was on our very first show. You said, I believe you said they were going to make the playoffs. Did you?
I don't remember, Tony.
I
think I said that
I think you and Gavino said they were going to make the playoffs. And I said, I think they're going to be battling for one, but in the end, I don't think they're going to make it. And so, we're both pretty close here, but I think right now, if you had to say, they're probably going to make it.
Okay, so right now, the projection to make the playoffs, and it keeps dropping, as I mentioned, because teams keep tying, it's 41 points. So technically speaking, if Montreal pick up 4 points in their last 5 games, which I think is doable, I think you have a game against Portland at home. Portland's not having a great season. There's a chance that they win that game. That's 3 points right there. They need 4 points to clinch 9th place, basically, if the tendency continues the way it is right now.
Inter Miami plays New York City FC in 9 days from now, so one of the teams is going to drop points?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so a lot of teams are going to be beating each other. It's looking pretty good. They have their faith in their own hands. All they got to do is take care of their own business, and they'll be in. The thing is, Tony, when you look at those teams, when you look at 8 all the way down to the bottom, they're not good teams, including Montreal. None of those teams are good teams. So you just got to be the best of the bad teams to be able to sneak in. I mean, I don't have much confidence that they'll be able to do anything in the postseason. Maybe they play the play-in. Maybe they even win the play-in. But after that, they don't have the team to be able to go any further than that. But if they just make the playoffs,
wouldn't
honestly,
that be something if Filosa plays his former team in the play-in?
That could be. That's possible. DC United. And with the roster that they have, and especially the money that they're spending, and the fact that a lot of them, most of the players that make the most money aren't even playing. Herrera's hurt. He makes $800,000. Wanyama got in yesterday because Piet wasn't 100%. He was sick, so they actually gave him a start. I thought it looked pretty good, by the way. I got to say, I like the way that he held the ball.
I liked Wanyama very much last night. Very much.
The only issue I had with Wanyama is when they were playing him every 3 days. The guy can't do that anymore. But you can tell yesterday that he was able to calm things down. I found he was very good, especially after they scored that first goal.
I like Nathan Saliba too last night.
So I'd like for Wanyama to get a little bit more playing time than he's getting right now. But what was my point? So where was I? What was I talking about? I don't remember exactly what I was talking about. But you have a situation there with Sirois. Some people pointing the finger towards him. I think if he could have that decision back.
No, what you were talking about is that most of the bigger salaries are not in the lineup right now. So basically what you're trying to say is Losada, whether you like him or not, whether you like his system or not, is getting, from a points perspective in the standings, the most that he can out of this group, because it's mind-boggling that a team that has a salary cap or a salary structure of $9 million.
It's even less now with Milevic's gone.
Money. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, it doesn't do much for the show because there's not much of a show going on. I was watching the game with my son yesterday again, and okay, it is FC Cincinnati, but there's been many, many, many games this year where they've scored one or none. So it's not much for that. But if you're a coach, you say, listen,
at $30, you still get enough bang for your buck. Come on.
There you go. It
costs less to go to a CF Montreal game than it does to go to the cinema nowadays.
Exactly. So that's the deal that fans are making, and they're battling for that playoff spot. We'll see what happens. Can they pick up a few points on the road? That's the question. I mean, they've been so bad on the road this year. They only have 2 wins in 14 games. A lot of those games they were blown out of the water.
It's a homer league, though, Jeremy. They're not the only ones. It's a homer league.
Yeah, it is. It is. They're going to Atlanta. It's not going to be easy. They have very good players. Almeida has 9 goals, I think. Giacomakis has 14 or something like that.
I think they lose. I think they lose Saturday, but if they win Saturday, this team's going to the play-in. If they win Saturday, this team's good.
They're not going to win.
Listen, I don't think so. But
if they can hold them and draw. Find a way to draw. That would be good. That would be fantastic for them.
By the way, Wednesday nights hurt them, because they had gone on a string of many sellouts in a row, playing on Saturday nights. Wednesday nights hurt them. I mean, it's back to school, I guess, whatever it is.
But that's the thing that I say, Tony, is when you ask somebody if they're going to buy a ticket for CF Montreal, this is the list of priority for most people, okay, that decide to buy a ticket and go. First off, first thing, am I working tomorrow or do my kids have school tomorrow? That's the first thing. Second thing, is it a nice day or is it raining? If it's raining, forget it. If it's a nice day, I'll consider going. Can I get a ticket for cheap or can I get a ticket for free? If that's the case, I'll consider going. And after that comes everything related to the sport. Does the other team have a good player that I want to see? What's the importance of the match? But we start really going lower and lower and lower when it comes to the sport because it was a huge game on Wednesday. It's a huge game. You want to try and pick up points there, but
you know that's due to several factors too, right? Number one, the media hasn't backed this team as much as they should. I mean, the media is more.
There are reasons for that.
The media is more than just Jeremy Filosa and Tony Marinaro, by the way. In terms of our media in Montreal, it's Montreal Canadiens first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Now, there are reasons for that. I can
tell you one thing.
You're going to say that the team has their share of responsibility, and they do.
I'll tell you one thing. I go to Alouettes practices once a week.
Yeah.
Every week from the beginning to the end of the season, and it is not rare to see 6, 7, 8 reporters, real reporters that work for real media outlets that are there covering the Alouettes 2-3 days before a game. Coach is available every single day. Every single player, every single coach is available every single day.
That's really important. You just said something that's really important because this twice a week, you'll get the coach and you'll get 2 players. Why does it have to be like that? Why?
Because
you want to market your team, market your players, have your players do as many interviews as possible. Let's put those interviews on radio. Let's put them on television. Let's put them on blogs. Let's put them in the paper. Let's put them on podcasts. Let's hear from the coach. Let's bring them to TV shows. Let's bring them to radio shows.
Let me ask you a question.
Podcasts.
Let me ask you a question.
Name me the Sick podcast. Sick Media has a New York City FC podcast. The coach of New York City FC is on the podcast all the time. All the time.
Yeah, well, that's not the way they think here, Tony. I'll tell you that much. Let me ask you a question, okay? Yeah. You name me one team, any team, North America, okay? Any league, doesn't matter, who their MVP of the season before comes back to play after a long injury. He's played 2 games. He hasn't said a word to the media. Name me another team, please. Is it possible? Does this exist? I don't know. I've been doing this for 25 years. Doesn't exist. But
for those who are, wonder, you're obviously talking about Romell Kyoto.
Well, where is he? This is the MVP of the 2022 season. If they got a shot at making the playoffs this year, this guy's going to have a huge role. He's been away for 4 months. We haven't talked to him since the spring. He's played 2 games. Why is this guy not available to media?
There's a basic rule of thumb, and everyone's going to have to follow it because there's never been anything that is more true. The media is an ally and should be treated as such. And so the media is an ally, and you use the media to get your message out. And sometimes you're not going to like the message, and sometimes the message might be negative. Sometimes the reality might be negative. But as long as the message is getting out, whether it's negative, positive, or a negative reality, whether you agree or disagree, whether it's opinionated or it's not, if they talk about you, they will come. This is what you want. You want them to talk about you.
So there's a reason why the media doesn't show up. Okay, so let's go back to your point now. When you were talking about the crowds, let's do it quickly. You were talking about the crowds, and you said one of the reasons is the media. Keep going. Follow up.
Well, yes, that's one of the reasons that we're talking about why people wouldn't go, or
I think that's what you were saying. I know in other markets too. Yesterday, crowds weren't great around the league, Tony, but maybe, all those weeks off they had during Leagues Cup, I know that's not their fault. Then there was the international window. I think had they known that Canada was going to do nothing, they probably would have scheduled the game on that weekend because it would have been fine for them. It would have been perfect. Better a game on the weekend in an international window than a game on a weeknight in the fall where.
For me, once again, it just comes down to the team and the media working hand in hand to drill it out there when this team is playing, where this team is playing, what time this team is playing, who they're playing against, and just get people to know your players. This is the most simplistic thing in the world, and I think I've been preaching this and screaming it out loud for the last 20 years. But then again, maybe the mentality is you don't want your players to do that many interviews because you're worried that they're going to say something. And if they have to say something, then you got to do a little bit of damage control or whatever. I don't get it. But anyway,
working hand in hand, Tony, we couldn't be further away from that. We couldn't be further away.
Anyway, let's hope that at one point here, we're going to be able to bridge the gap.
So tell me what you think about the foul in the box. PK or not?
1,000%.
Okay. And now how much blame do you put on Sirois, or how much do you say, you know what, this guy saved this team's ass all year and he's a young keeper and he's going to make those mistakes? And
both are true. Both are true. He's been the best player on the team this year. Choignard's been very good. Sirois, I think, has been, he broke a franchise record for clean sheets.
Yeah.
Jonathan Sirois has been the revelation and the story of the season for CF Montreal. That is true. It's also true that he made a rookie mistake last night.
He made a rookie mistake.
He made a rookie mistake. There was no need to come out the way he came out. Everyone's looking at the ref. No, what are you doing? This and that. That was 1,000% foul. Not 1%, 1,000%. Look, it's a brain cramp. It happens. Personally, to tell you the truth, I'm willing to say this guy has stolen many more points in the standings for them than he lost last night.
So listen, I know that we're running out of time because we're gonna have a short show today, but I want to get onto two subjects.
We have a good 10 minutes.
Okay. So today we spoke to Hernan Lozada. Obviously, we talked about Atlanta, the difficulties and everything. Hopefully, most of the guys will be back. Tony, I just want to give you an update on Zach Brault-Guillard, who worked out today but wasn't feeling 100%. Should be ready to go on Saturday, hopefully. Samuel Piet, same thing. Not good enough to start yesterday, but he was on the field today. Gilles Anthony Vilsaint.
It's going around, Jeremy. It's going around.
Yeah. There's a virus going on in the team. Gilles Anthony trained by himself today. He will be a last-minute decision tomorrow as to whether he travels or not to Atlanta. We know he took a little bit of a knock, nothing serious, but we don't know if he's going to be ready to go.
Did he have anything taped up? Did he have anything taped up at all? Anything?
You know what? I don't remember. I'm sorry.
MLS states it as an ankle injury. Could very well be. I can tell you, every player, unless they're getting a knock, because you get a knock, anyone can get injured. If it's something that is just something that comes back every now and then, I can tell you that in my time of knowing him as a player going back, give or take 10 or 11 years, not very often did I see him have ankle injuries. Not very often. But,
so listen, let's hope he'll be ready to go. I don't think Romell is ready to start, Tony, but I think he's ready to get about 30 minutes. They were going to give him 20 this week, but because of the game situation, they were ahead in the score. He only got maybe a dozen minutes or whatever it was, plus extra time. So today, I felt a little uncomfortable. I had to ask the coach about Mihailovic or Milic, because nobody from the organization has come out and said anything. And he's the only member of upper echelon of the organization who's made available. So I had to ask Hernan.
Let's take a look at the clip. Let's take a look at it. I believe it's in French, obviously, but we will translate. So let's show the clip.
It was my question.
On Matko Milic.
Je m'excuse de devoir vous poser cette question, mais étant donné que vous êtes un des seuls représentants de la haute direction de l'équipe, qu'est-ce que vous avez dû faire suite à l'histoire de Matko? Est-ce que vous avez adressé ça avec les joueurs, vous leur avez parlé, expliqué? Et surtout que ça arrive à un moment où le roster freeze est passé, donc pas possible de le remplacer.
C'est dommage.
Qu'est-ce que vous pouvez nous dire là-dessus? Ouais.
Non, rien à dire, Jérémy. On a parlé ça avec le groupe pour rester conscient des choses qu'on peut faire, des choses qu'on ne peut pas faire. Il y a un contrat que tout le monde il a signé et ok, ce sont des choses qui ne peuvent pas passer. Malheureusement, c'est passé et c'est ça la situation et on ne peut pas changer ça. On ne peut pas ajouter un nouveau joueur et c'est comme ça.
Une question aussi qui me semble peut-être délicate. Sean Ryan ne fait pas partie des plans depuis, on dirait depuis sa réaction quand elle a été sortie en mai. Est-ce qu'il est encore puni pour cette réaction-là qu'il y avait eu en mai dernier ou bien c'est d'autres raisons qui expliquent qu'il ne joue pas beaucoup ces temps-ci?
Tu penses que je suis un entraîneur qui va punir un joueur jeune comme Sean Ryan dans son première saison comme professionnel parce qu'il a fait quelque chose comme ça, il n'a pas joué? Non. C'est simplement Bryce Duke, c'est un numéro 10. Hamdi, c'est un numéro 10. Je ne peux pas aller avec 3-4 numéros 10 sur la sélection devant. Dans ce moment-là, il y a des autres joueurs qui sont devant lui. C'est à lui de montrer qu'il peut faire la compétition dans ces joueurs-là. Il n'y a pas plus que ça. S'il vous plaît, ne cherche pas des trucs qui font du mal.
Mais c'est sûr que pour nous, quand on voit un gars qui obtient des départs au début de la saison et là, il disparaît de la carte, c'est sûr que pour nous, c'est...
C'est à la base aussi parce que Sean il a joué quand les autres joueurs ils ont été blessés. Et la sélection n'était pas complète. Bryce il n'était pas là. Mahala Opoku n'est pas là. Ok, maintenant c'est à lui de travailler et de faire des efforts pour prendre une nouvelle possibilité. Mais il n'y a pas plus que ça.
All right. Okay. Let's translate if we can on Matko Milic because he was asked about Matko Milic and Sean Ryan. On Matko Milic, he responds to your question and he says, yes, I had a chance to talk to the players. I basically told them, you're professionals. You signed an agreement. There's certain things you can do. There's certain things you can't do. This is one of the things that you cannot do. And yes, the timing is unfortunate because the roster freeze has passed and we cannot replace him. On Sean Raya, when asked, you haven't really played him since he came off after 23 minutes on and he was unhappy. What can you tell us? And he was able to read between the lines, and that is this player being punished? And he said, do you think I would punish a young player in his first year pro for something like that? Come on, guys, please don't look for stories where there are none. Obviously, I would not. And then you said, yeah, but for us, you have to understand, it's a little bit weird. He played at the beginning of the season. He played well. And now he started. Now he's not getting in. He's not even benched. He's not dressed at all. And he said, yes, but there were, at the beginning of the season, there were certain players that weren't here. Duke wasn't here. Lassiter wasn't here. Opoku wasn't here. And now they're here. And I can only play 2 10s. So I have Duke and I have Hamdi. I thought he handled the questions very well. I believe a lot of what he's saying, but before I tell you what I think, what do you think?
Listen, I mean, the issue that I have, like I said, is you either badly evaluated him at the beginning of the season where you're giving him.
Oh, we lost Jeremy. Let's see if we can get Jeremy back. Okay, we got Jeremy back. Jeremy, we don't hear you. We got you back, but we lost you for a second here.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. And by the way, we got plenty. We got about 10 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, so as I mentioned, had Sean Raya been a substitute at the beginning of the season, picking up minutes here and there, and then other players come back in, and there's a hierarchy where you're a sub. Okay, all of a sudden, well, you're on the bench, or you're on the bench, so then you're not dressed anymore. But I think this is the way the hierarchy goes. You're a starter, you're a sub, you're on the bench, and you don't play, or you're not dressed. Now you went from starting to not dressed. There are levels there. So what I'm saying is, at the beginning of the year, Choinière was there. Hamdi was there. Wanyama was there. Piet was there. He got injured later on. But, now all of a sudden...
It's true, Jeremy, it's true that they added players up top. The players that he said that they added up top.
Sure.
It's true. They did add Duke.
I understand,
They did add Lassiter, and they did add Opoko. It's true.
This is what I'm going to tell you, okay? I'm going to tell you this.
Yeah.
If your plan is to develop and sell young players, okay? And we know that Hamdi's at the end of his contract now, right? And you want Rhea to get some value, to improve. But if you're a team that's going to develop and sell players, doesn't he have to play?
So now you just hit it on the bullseye, okay? This is where I was going. I believe a lot of what he was saying. And when he looks at a member of the media and says, do you think I'm going to punish a young player who's trying to jumpstart his career in his first season pro? Do you really think that? Don't look for stories where there's none. I understand, okay? I don't think we're dealing with a terrible person here, okay? I don't think he would want to do that to a young player. He, once upon a time, used to be a young player himself.
Of course.
The only thing that I would say to the coach, I would say, Coach, do I think you're doing that? No. I don't think you're that kind of person. I don't think you're that kind of coach. At least I hope not. But what I will say to you, Coach, is this. Are you trying to hurt Sean Rhea's career? No. But his career is being hurt by not playing. His confidence is being shattered by not dressing. Okay? I think there's something to this story that we don't know. I think at one point they've discussed his training habits and stuff like that, which probably can be or they can't be. Sean is the type of character that, and it would be normal to get down, to be very, very disappointed, to sometimes put your arms down. But he's also the type of character that he will fight. Okay. But sometimes it can get rather depressing when you don't. I mean, the last time he played, I think, was back on July the 2nd when he came in and he started in a wing back position, which was probably his worst game of the season, but it's probably the worst position to put him in. Okay. But I'll say, so let me just finish with this.
Yeah.
Because I like where you went. Okay. You have 2 10s. Duke is one. And by the way, Duke has not overly convinced me.
Is Duke really that much better than Rhea, honestly?
Well, I believe that if Rhea plays as much as Duke and gets the same opportunities as Duke, I believe that Rhea would give more right now. Now, I'm just, an overweight guy who works on the radio, television, and podcasts. By no means am I a coach or qualified to be that. But you hit the nail on the head. Ahmed Hamdi's gone at the end of the year.
Exactly.
He's gone. They're not bringing him back. The team holds an option on Sean Rhea. And we know what he did last year in the CPL. We know he's from here. We know he's a young player. You would think that they're going to exercise his option and make him come back. Wouldn't it add to his baggage of experience by investing a little bit more in him than what are we investing in? It's not like Hamdi makes the difference in the game. That's what I think.
No, so now you have this situation of the end of the season where you have to make a decision on whether you're picking up this guy's option or not. He may even ask you himself, guys, if you're not going to play me, don't pick up my option. Please give me an opportunity to go somewhere else.
It's an easy decision. You pick up the option. If you're the club.
Okay. So we've always said that if a player
why would you let him go?
He's
He's a local, talented 21-year-old player who has a ceiling that he hasn't hit yet. Why would you let him go for free? For nothing.
But Tony, if you're not going to play him, if the coach tells you, listen, Olivier, bring him back if you want. I don't like him. I'm not going to play him. What are you going to do? And like I said, maybe the player, maybe his agent will come up to you and say, listen, guys, if you're not going to play him, please give us an opportunity to go somewhere else. And they've always said that if a player wants to leave, they'll let him go. But if you know Sean Rhea, and we know Sean Rhea because he's been here a long, long time, that logo, he's got it tattooed on his heart. This guy, Sean Rhea, wants to play for CF Montreal. He doesn't want to play for anybody else. He had an opportunity to go to Italy a few years back. He didn't go. You know why he didn't go? He wants to play here. He wants to play at Saputo Stadium for CF Montreal. That's all this guy has in his heart.
But
so if you push him,
it's admirable. But when you're a soccer player, your mentality has to change. You have to be able to pick up and go at any point and play for any team. Because you know what?
Of course.
I can tell you this. I know a lot of players who want to play for Man City and they want to play for Arsenal too. But the reality
Tony,
of soccer is different.
When I see a guy from here that
Yeah.
I know wants to play for this team,
It's
it breaks
admirable.
my heart to see that you're gonna
Listen,
you're gonna let him go.
the
It
kid must
doesn't
be
make sense.
devastated for sure. He must be
Yeah, so
devastated.
you've invested like the last 10 years on this guy to develop him,
I'll
and
say this.
now he's not playing. So
If his option is not exercised at the end of the season by the club,
yeah,
I'll say this: at least a third of the league will go after Sean Rea.
well, especially the Canadian teams. I think Toronto and Vancouver will be all over him because he's a Canadian player. They'll
Yeah.
want him in their roster. We see that Vancouver is making a move in that direction. They want to bring in Canadian
Jeremy,
players.
the American teams will take him. Why won't they take him?
Well, just because he's Canadian, he's probably going to count as a foreigner. I'm not sure.
No,
though
he
he's
won't. He
No?
won't, because the rule is that if you have a 98 birth date, you remember this?
No.
And you're a home, yeah, you came in if you're a 98 or after birth date, he's a 2002 birth date, and you're a homegrown player, you sign a homegrown contract. At that point, no matter where you go, well, you're considered domestic. You're not international.
There's also, I think that
Now,
if
he
he
would have
goes,
been playing for an amateur club and he wasn't raised in the academy, and he ends up playing with the team and then going somewhere else, he's an international. But
right?
as it is, he's a domestic.
Okay, so listen, let's wait and see what happens. I hope he gets another shot from now till the end of the year, because Tony, there's one thing that bothers me.
Vancouver would jump on him.
They would jump on him if you had
15,
3
20
guys.
minutes off the bench when you bring in Ryan Gold, when you bring him off.
Of course. If you had on this team 2 number 10s that were just producing, you'd say, you know what, Sean, you're going to have to be patient. There's no other option. But Tony, they can't score a freaking goal. They can't score. Like, for me, if I'm a coach and I'm lacking this opportunity, this scoring ability, I'm going to try every single option I have in my tool bag. And
Yeah.
I can't understand why. Like I said, if guys were dominating in front of him, it would be one thing, but it's not the case.
All right. In ending, I'm a little bit depressed here, because I'm going to tell you, I didn't want Inter Miami to start Lionel Messi yesterday. I didn't understand that they started him. He had joined Argentina a couple of weeks back. He played a game. At one point, he came out. He didn't play the next game. Then he ended up coming home. They said it was muscular fatigue.
Right.
And he had gone 11 days without playing. They have the U.S. Open Cup final 1 week from tonight.
Yeah.
In Florida versus Houston, a team that has been playing very well over the last month or so. And you play him and Alba, and they both come off at the 35th, 37th, 38th minute or whatever it is. Martino says that once again, it's still more muscular fatigue.
Yeah.
I don't it's with all due respect to Toronto FC, the type of season they're having, you would think that chances are they would have won the game without Messi. Listen, Tata Martino's a genius. I'm nobody. And maybe I'm speaking because I'm a little bit biased here, because I got 2 tickets to go watch that game next week, and I shelled out big bucks for them, okay?
Yeah.
So I bought 2 tickets for that U.S. Open Cup final, and I'm only going to say it because JC asked me earlier tonight on TVS Sports how much I paid for my tickets, and I told him, so I'll tell you. But I bought 2 tickets for that U.S. Open Cup final on Wednesday, September 27th. And I bought 2 tickets 3 days later when they host New York City FC. And for those 4 tickets, I paid $2,000 US. So not to mention the truck that I rented, and not to mention the flights that I booked, and not to so I really want him to play in that U.S. Open Cup final and in that game versus New York City FC. But what I'm saying is, why would you chance it when you know you have a cup final in a week? I don't get it. I don't get it.
Listen. I mean, I think, Messi decides if he's going to play or not, if he's okay to play or not. He had missed Argentina's last game. He did miss the game last week. So they probably thought to themselves, let's try it out. Let's see, because it is fatigue. It's not an injury, according to what they're telling us. But yeah, he had to come out at the 38th minute. Yesterday, it's already confirmed that both of them are not going to be playing against Orlando on Sunday. So
I think your playoff hopes are over on Sunday, by the way. I think the other Florida team beats them and puts an end to their season.
But they're only 5 points back, and they got 2 games in hand on DC. So mathematically, right now, their playoff chances are 21%. That's what they are right now.
Hold on a second.
And they've won without Messi.
So, okay, I understand that. But let's just say they lose on Sunday in Orlando. Then they come back for the Cup final, Messi and Alba. And they have this muscular fatigue, but they come back and they play. You know what's going to happen on the Saturday? After that, 3 years later, they're not going to play again. And then they're going to go up against a team that is playing a do or die game versus them because they're trying to get into the playoffs too. As much as I love for them to go to the playoffs and go to the final, and there's another reason why I want them to go to the final.
But I understand.
Okay.
But Tony, I mean, listen, what they did for 5 weeks coming into the Leagues Cup was inhumane. What Messi was doing at his age, playing every 3 days, 90 minutes, it was too much. And we knew eventually it would catch up. Like, honestly, to tell you the truth, I think he should have skipped the international window. That's my opinion. After all those games he played, should have just said, listen, I'm not going to be there for these ones. Let's move on.
I agree with you.
He tried to go. He played one. He scored a goal. And now they're suffering a little bit.
All right, CF Montreal in Atlanta on Saturday night. And, of course, more podcasts to follow. It is the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk. You can follow us on YouTube. Check out our YouTube channel. It's absolutely free. And follow us on our Twitter account at SickPod, CFMTL. He is Jeremy Filosa of 98.5 FM and EMFC. Radio, a CF Montreal podcast en français. I'm Marinaro. Have a good night.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.